Here we are. At 1 hour. Those of you who know me know I would like to apologize for the half hour you still have yet to go in this service. Well, it's really about 20 minutes. I hope that you'll stay, and if you can't, that's fine. The sermon will be up on the website. But here we go. I wanted to tell this story actually first. I was once with a group of friends having some coffee and sort of talking about things, and we went around checking in with each other, and one person shared, my grandfather isn't doing well, we're waiting on him with some tests, and I'm just so grateful for the time I had to be with him over the holidays. We're not sure what's going to happen, but it doesn't look good. Many of us shared our condolences. Some shared their own stories about anticipating grief or a big change like that, and our friend seemed comforted. Then a few more folks checked in, and then another friend who wasn't looking too good actually sort of lifted up her head and she spoke. She said, "My dog is dying." And the room filled instantly with sympathetic sounds. Another friend moved over to sit next to her, right close, and other friends sort of looked at each other and grimaced as if to say, "Oh man, that is tough." The outpouring was so very touching as our friend started to cry and acknowledge her own pain and express her gratitude for the care and concern that she was feeling. And then it was only driving home that evening, talking with one of my closest friends, that I said, "Hey, I don't want to sound too dark here, but did you notice the difference between all of our reactions to Steve's grandfather and Lauren's dog?" And my friend sort of sighed and with some relief that I kind of said something first, and we both agreed we weren't really sure why we were all so much more upset by the news of an ailing companion animal than an ailing grandfather, but somehow we just were. And we didn't talk much more about it that car ride, but that's always kind of stayed with me. As many of you know, today is a unique day in the life of this church and the life actually of churches worldwide. We don't do as much blessing here, perhaps, as our friends around town like to do in other churches, and that's fine. It kind of makes the blessings that we do special. So the chance to bless so many of your companions with fur and with scales and feathers and hair and all kinds of other coverings and visages is special, and to me, it's really fun. I think you can tell I enjoy it. So we do this on this day, on October 4th, because it's the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. I know we're already starting off talking about Catholic saints, but just hang in with me, folks. It's going to be okay. I promise. Francis was the son of a wealthy family, as some of us know, who followed a divine call to leave the lust for wealth and power so many followed to war during the Crusades in the 13th century. And he did this, he left this world in a pretty fun way. He answered a call to practice his faith, to worship the divine, solely in the surroundings of the natural and wild world around him. Now, Assisi is actually a pretty nice place. I'm going to show you a little bit of it right now, and then you'll be able to see. So here's Assisi. Oh, go back. So you can see right here that it's nestled in the Umbrian Valley of central Italy, but it's in the foothills of Monte Subasio, overlooking two different lower river valleys on either side. So if you can, just imagine being in a valley, but being a little up mountain, and there being a river or a stream going by your side, just if you can. For those of you not getting the joke, that's very much how this building that I'm standing in is situated. And you can see it here nestled in the valley. So, Francis was doing all right out there. The climate makes it pretty decent to be outdoors. And after a while, living out there, worshiping the divine, he started to get new followers, people who wanted to live his kind of life. The followers would go with him around the wilderness and let him teach them, and eventually the entire order of religious professionals was founded in his name. And today there are many words that are attributed to him, like the lyrics of our opening song, actually, and the prayer of St. Francis, but none of those things are actually things that Francis of Assisi actually said. They are in keeping with what people like to think about him and the image so many have of him. That image of him out in the wilderness, surrounded by beautiful, usually attractive, sweet, well-behaving, non-human animals and living an untroubled life. It sounds pretty nice, I think, doesn't it? So you can see him in his famous look here. So this is St. Francis. Here's one of the famous images of Francis in the wilderness. In this picture, though, what is it that the non-human animals appear to be worshiping? It sort of looks like the animals are worshiping Francis, or at least paying really close attention. All except, if you can see it, that cow. She kind of knows what's up. She's looking at whoever is standing over there on an easel painting their worship service. But what's really happening here in this image is worshipful, rapt attention of animals to a human. And let's be honest, it's a little comical for us. Animals don't usually sit around and just listen to a person speak. Maybe they did that for Francis, but not really, unless you're using words like T-R-E-A-T or W-A-L-K. And I realize I'm being a little canine-centric here. I'm sorry about that, but I'll keep working on it. So history shows us that for a lot longer than animals were supposed to worship a human, it was the other way around. In the oldest ancient religions on earth, animals formed the center of worship for faiths throughout the Nile and the Himalayan regions. There are records that feature gods with the likeness of cats and dogs and jackals in the case of the Egyptian religion. There's sacred vegetarianism in the case of Hinduism and Buddhism. With Hinduism, the world's oldest continuous active religion, featuring gods also in the likeness of animals. And we can just talk about horses for a whole sermon if you want. When you have some time, look at the ways horses were part of worship in the ancient Norse world and also in the early cultic Turkish people, not to mention all over Arabia. Yeah, human animals were worshiping non-human animals a long time before we got the idea that they should be worshiping us. And there are reasons for this, friends. We just blessed them all one by one. Look, we can get into the history and prodigious expanse of animal worship. It's a lot. And one of our sources is definitely the natural world and the faith of earth-based religions that direct us to be attentive to the rhythms of life in nature. But one of our sources of the living tradition of this tradition is also direct experience with the world around us. And one of so many people's direct experiences that they cherish the most is the experience of a companion, non-human animal. For many, it is the purest, the richest connection to another soul in their life. The early morning walks, the sacrifices of our sleep we love so much, and the money it takes to take care of them. The repetition, the routines we follow to keep them healthy and happy, the ritual of caring for them. The feeling inside of communing with another pure, strange, beautiful soul, and the cathartic feeling that comes with it. Sacrifice, ritual, catharsis. Now, you don't really need a degree in worship to realize that's starting to sound a little bit like worship to us. Now, maybe we haven't really turned the tables as much as we think. That's okay. The worshipful affection we give to these lives makes them some of the most important parts of our lives. And this plays out in a lot of ways. Here's one. I remember reading this love advice column once that went something like this. Dear, love doctor. My partner works out of the house, and I stay home to raise our children. One of the really fun parts of our day is when my partner comes home and our children get so excited to greet them. My partner comes in the door, kisses the kids on their heads, kisses me gently on the lips, which is nice, and then spends minutes with our golden retriever, asking the golden retriever, whom I love, who's a good dog? What did you do today? Do you need a walk? All the things I would like to be asked. And they slather each other in these messy kisses. Help me. How do I explain this to my partner? Because the kids are starting to notice too. Yours truly, a less than golden receiver. I made that part up. I'm just trying to be silly. So, that's not that hard a scene to imagine, right? There is something about some animals that can turn us into childish, emotive, rhetorical question-asking piles of mush, so that sometimes we don't even notice how we're treating the human animals around us. Our non-human animals' lives are that important to some of us. So this month, it is fitting that we are looking at the spiritual theme of mortality, because one of the first experiences many of us have of mortality, one of the deepest selfless lessons many of our non-human animal companions teach us with their lives that is so important to us, is that we all live and that we all die. The passing of a beloved companion like Rotini we heard about today is often the first experience of powerful grief many children ever have in their lives. The sadness and the grief we saw in our first story about an ailing dog is one that resonates in many of our own lives. We love them more than we can really say. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. Though I know I'll often stop and think about them in my life, I love you more. These final words from our meditation music today are sometimes missed or understood. The song starts by saying, all these places I've been with all these kinds of people, I loved them all. And it ends by saying, taking all those things in my life, I still love you more. I love you more. In interviews, John Lennon, who wrote the lyrics of this song, said that it was a song that started with remembering the fond places of childhood and a good friend who died. And as we know, any song about love, any love at all in this world, is linked inextricably to grief. For grief is how we honor our love. I love you more. That is a powerful statement, one that borders on theological. It means that from the entire past that was, past tense love, in this moment now, in the present, I love you more. And it is this kind of unvarnished, selfless love that is entirely in this moment, in this present, that so many of us feel from our non-human animals. They don't remember whether we unloaded the dishwasher. They don't remember the shame of 5 years ago from a forgotten anniversary. They don't remember details in the same way that our human animal companions do. So what they give us is entirely in the moment, in the present, is the essence of I love you more. And maybe it's because non-human animals would never actually try to hurt us. Maybe it's because non-human animals can't join political parties or engage us on social media. Maybe it's because we are hardwired for millennia to rely upon, to depend upon, to worship in so many ways non-human animals. But whatever the reason is, we love them in a way that is hard to explain but is plain to see. In the grief of our friend, in the return from work of the golden retriever, in the ways we bless our animals today. And this is why. Because love is only love in the present, in the moment right now. Love is only love now, friends. If it's in the past, it's history, it's nostalgia. If it's in the future, it's a dream of what might be, a longing for something yet unknown. Love, if it is love, is now. The blessing of our non-human animals is not their worshipful praise of us. The blessing of our non-human animals is not our worshipful praise of them, though humans taking a break from thinking we're the only animal that matters on earth is a good place to start spiritually. The blessing of our non-human animals is not even in the ways they might comfort us or keep us company. The blessing of our non-human animals is how they show us what living in this moment right now really looks like. And the monumental power of that love is only fully known in the presence of the heartbreaking grief that we feel when we lose them. I say to people grieving sometimes that grief is like a lone bear that wanders on and then off your property, At times it seems like it makes sense what it's doing, but at others you can't figure out when it might come back, yet you still can't forget it. And at other times it's kind of terrifying. Behaves like the wild animal you know it is, but you can't control it, and you never really know what it's going to do. And so it might be that the greatest blessing of our non-human animal companions is drawing to our minds the twin bargains that love and grief make us enter with every waking breath. It looks like the love of a friend moving unconsciously to comfort another friend in grief. It looks like a loving partner coming home, showering affection in ways that aren't perfect. But I pray that the real blessing is that one day truly we will understand the grief of so many of our siblings that has gone on for so long, uncomfort and unaddressed. And that the real blessing will be that all of humankind might care about one another at least as much as we care about our non-human animals. I know that years of worshipful, powerful imprinting has led us to find non-human animals irresistible to love, but we must notice the powerful imprinting that has also led human animals to find certain other human animals unworthy or undeserving of the same love, simply because of how they look, whom they love, or where they live. In my life, I would never say to love non-human animals less. It should be more. In my life, I would never say that caring for our companion animals is wrong, because it is right. But in my life, I pray that we can learn to come to a place of love for our neighbor, of our fellow human sufferer in life, of our siblings bound with us in this dance between love and grief, at the center of our circle for concern, at the center of our attention, at the center of our prayers, much like good old St. Francis said to place at the center of his prayer named for him, grant that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is only by self-forgetting that we find. It is only by forgiving that we are forgiven. It is only by dying do we awaken to eternal life. And for many of us, at least in this life, the only eternal we know is right here, right now, in this moment where love is present as fully and powerfully as it really ever can be, right now in my life, because of all of you blessed animals I'm speaking to, and all of the blessed animals I have ever known, I can say, I love you more. And may it ever be so. Blessed be, and amen.